more than a month after the Boston Marathon bombings, there are new developments in the investigation.
Early this morning, Ibrahim Todashev was shot and killed in Florida while being questioned by an FBI agent and 2 Massachusetts state troopers. The 27-year-old reportedly had ties to Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the bombing suspect killed in the shootout with police in Watertown. The FBI says Todashev became violent during questioning, but will not say who fired the fatal shot. The FBI agent was injured in the altercation, but those injuries are not life-threatening.
For the latest on this story, stay tuned to 89.7 WGBH Radio or go to WGBHnews.org, where our own Philip Martin reports on a possible link between the bombing suspects and a 2011 triple murder in Waltham. Now, though, we turn our attention to one of the many inspiring stories to emerge from the marathon bombing. Like so many of the victims, Kaitlynn Cates and her boyfriend Leo Fonseca went to Boylston Street to watch friends cross the finish line.
After the bomb went off, Leo Fonseca picked up Kaitlynn Cates, who suffered a serious leg injury, and carried her to their car a block away. They were the first of many injured people to arrive at MGH. Just 4 days ago, Cates took her first steps without the help of crutches. On Sunday, she thanked Boston police for their response at her alma mater, Suffolk University. But she says it was Fonseca's brave actions that saved her life.
And Kaitlynn Cates and Leo Fonseca are here. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Well, reading your story, it sounds like both of you were kind of aware right away, Kaitlynn, that, I mean, this was a bomb. This was not some, accidental gas thing or something.
I actually wasn't aware that what it was. I thought it might have been a firework. Someone opened fired at the crowd, but I later, within the 10 seconds between the first and the second bomb, as Leo shielded me from the second jumping on top of me, once he was jumping on top of me saying, "Stay down," I knew at that point that it was a bomb.
So you had a good sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I thought. I knew something was terribly wrong, obviously, and then obviously when we heard the second bomb, I knew it wasn't an accident.
How long were you laying there before Leo picked you up and started to...
Not that long. First bomb, there was 10 seconds in between the second. As soon as the second bomb went off, I physically tried to crawl. I wasn't aware that I had an injury yet. At that moment, he picked me up right away, and he rushed me to his vehicle, which was, thank God, parked in a private alley in between Boylston and Newbury.
Probably illegal, but we'll let you know. No. So, Leo, tell us what you did, because that's a harrowing tale about how you got to the hospital.
Yeah, so when Kaitlynn told me her leg was injured, I was in the process of picking her up, and she said, my leg, and I looked at it, and I knew it was bad. And I knew that, she needed medical attention. So my instinct, quite honestly, wasn't to take her to the hospital, but it was to try to find some medical help there, because it was a pretty serious injury, and she was bleeding pretty badly, and there was a lot of medical people at the marathon. When I said that to her, she instantly said, "No, take me to the hospital, take me to your car and get me to the hospital." So I carried her. My car was parked legally, actually, behind our restaurant on Newbury Street, and I brought her to where I park and laid her down and tied my shirt with my sweatshirt around her leg to try to stop the bleeding. And I actually left her lying next to my car for a couple of seconds while I made sure I could actually get out of our alley, because I was concerned that I was going to get her into my car and not have anywhere to go with all the chaos. But some people that were just, asking how they could help stopped pedestrian and automobile traffic for me, and I took a right turn onto Exeter, which is the wrong way, and then took a right turn onto Beacon Street, which is the wrong way, and we had a pretty interesting drive from there to Mass General. But
wow.
we got there, and when we got there, they didn't know what had happened. So Kaitlynn was the one actually telling them I was injured and there was a bomb, and nobody had any idea what we were actually talking about. Yeah, because you were the first ones there.
Yeah.
Yes.
How soon did you realize the extent of your injuries, and what were they? What happened to you?
I actually suffered a deep tissue right calf injury. I lost anywhere from 20 to 30% of my lower right calf. When I first got there, I didn't know anything. He had wrapped his sweatshirt in addition to a blanket around it. They performed bedside surgery, and I just knew I was going into an emergency surgery right away the next morning. They did it priority-wise, so people who had, I'm sure, amputations and whatnot went obviously first. And then when I came out of surgery, they told me that exactly what it was. That's when I remember. first learning about my injury. And then I went into another surgery where they took a skin graft to close the wound because it wouldn't stitch closed the first time.
Were you ever in danger of losing your leg?
No, but I was not aware of that in the beginning with the amount of blood that we both saw. Neither of us really knew what was going to happen at that point in time.
I think, somewhat luckily for a lot of people that were injured, like Kaitlynn, I think that, the fact that there was so much medical personnel on the scene and people that weren't able to get to the hospital quickly were treated quickly, and the fact that we were able to get to a great hospital so quickly made a huge difference for a lot of people.
Now, I know you're a tennis player.
I am, as are you, so I've learned.
That's right. So you're going to be able to play again?
I should be. They did tell me I'll have 100% recovery. Sprinting might be the only trouble, which there's a lot of sprinting in tennis, but I'm determined I'll be back on the court in no time.
And do you feel like you can walk pretty well now?
Yes, I do. I got the okay to walk a little over a week and a half ago. I'd secretly already been walking. Don't tell my surgeon. But yeah, I've been walking pretty normal in the last few days. Longer periods, 6 blocks now, 7 blocks.
Leo, you were, conscious. You weren't wounded. So were you aware of what else was going on around you? Were you aware of how many other people were coming in? I mean, did you have a good sense?
Unfortunately, I had a pretty good sense of what was going on. Certainly not to the extent of it, but, in the sort of pile that we ended up in after the first bomb went off, there were a lot of pretty seriously injured people. And, when I was walking Kaitlynn out of there, I saw a lot of the aftermath of what had happened where we were. And then in the time that we were in the hospital, from getting there and telling them what had happened to watching patient after patient come into the emergency room, I knew there must have been a lot of very seriously injured people. But, I had no idea that, the poor people had passed away. And, I didn't know the extent of the damage, but I knew there was a lot of people that were hurt.
Now, you met the president a few days after. I mean, he was in town on Thursday. The marathon was Monday.
Yeah, I believe it was the day of the lockdown. Was it the day? Did he come in?
And that was the next day.
That was the next day.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
No, actually, he came in on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
He came in before.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought he came in before the before
Yeah,
they
he did.
actually
He
found
came in
him,
on a Wednesday.
which worried me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yes,
it was before they found the suspect.
Yes. It was an honor to meet him. He was so inspirational. Very, very, very kind. Shook each of our hands. Told us how inspirational we were.
That's great.
It was touching. It was
Now,
nice.
I was shocked to read in the paper today that only a handful of people had actually filed for the one fund where there's $30 million. Have you?
I have not completed, but I plan to.
You plan to.
I absolutely do. We have a deadline, June 15th.
Yeah. So you're not procrastinating. It's just...
It's a lot of paperwork. We have to get all documentation from our doctors, from our nurse case manager, saying the date, what exactly happened to us and whatnot. And then once we get that, we send all that over together.
And you have another fund that you've set up for Kaitlynn as well.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't involved with setting it up, but some of Kaitlynn's friends did, and a lot of people have generously donated to it. There's going to be a gap certainly from, where Kaitlynn's insurance stops and where the one fund stops, and she's been unable to work since this all happened, and so some of her friends stepped up and they went through a site called giveforward.com. The site is the fund is called Kaitlynn's Recovery, and a lot of people that Kaitlynn knows, and even a lot of people that Kaitlynn doesn't know, have gone on. Some have donated a lot of money, and some have donated a little. But the message from her friends is that not everybody has to donate a lot. Just donate what you can afford, and it will go a long way. So
you also work on Boylston Street.
I work on Newbury Street.
Newbury. Have you been back?
Yeah. Yeah, I was back to work the following week, actually the day after Kaitlynn got out of the hospital. It's the culture of the neighborhood still is there, which is great. It's great to see Bostonians coming out and supporting the local businesses. A lot of businesses down there had a really tough time the couple weeks after because they weren't allowed to reopen. But we were lucky enough that we've been open most of the time.
And how was it meeting Police Commissioner Ed Davis and going back to your alma mater?
An honor. It was an absolute honor. He reached out to shake my hand, and I just pulled him in for a big hug. It was amazing. I presented him with a bouquet after he got his honorary degree from Suffolk, and it was just, I felt safe. It was my first time in a crowd enclosed, so I felt safe with him. A crowd since the marathon, so it was nice.
He's a great guy. All right, Kaitlynn Cates, Leo Fonseca, great and inspirational story. Thanks.
Thank you.